Good morning to you, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Santa Monica, California, United States of America. Good morning to you. Hope you're having a beautiful day, that you're occupying the radiance of your own unique heart, your expression of love and beauty, that you rise to the occasion of making good on the promise of your existential raison d'etre, your human embodied raison d'etre, connecting to that deep entelechy, that intelligence of wise decisions that are, minimally censored by projection, outcome, the conditions of conformity, and that you live the best that you can with the dreamscape and the new discoveries of a dream that are appropriate to you. So from my heart to yours, good morning, or good evening, good afternoon, nice to have you. I wish it was real in human interaction, but yes, we have digital communion here. So today is April 20, 2021. This is the 20th talk. I can't help but put out there my new book, which I'm radically proud of, called Extinction, X-Rated, an autofictional dark satire about good and evil. I've quoted Mr. Carl Jung on the cover. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Stating the obvious. It's so amazing to see the responses, the retractions, the contractions, the awesome elevations I've gotten from people who've begun reading it, who've finished reading it, some who put it on their altar to replace their Buddha, some who threw it into the trash and burned it and deplatformed me before Twitter or Zuckerberg will. Just a few words about it, and I want to dive into today's talk. This dual premonition of awakening and death. But this book, I put this up today. This book has been a companion of mine since I've been in the home here for nearly a year. It was the guiding principle on writing this book. It's a book of mandalas, and mandalas focus the mind on the unifying principle of all life. And they're amazing if you know them. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I've studied them quite intimately nearly this last year. And they're fascinating pieces of art, and I've had some background as a painter, as an artist. Not like this, in this style, but I like the symbolic unity of things, the mandala intersecting symbols, and you can't see it. I wish I could be better at it, but just using your imagination. They spare nothing. This artist, representing the historical art of Tibet, but not confined to Tibet. I think almost every religion and spirituality in the world has some form of unifying symbolism to show the dimensionality of what we live with, what we encounter, what we deny, what we are forced to deal with. And they're symbols, they're artistic, they're beautiful creations on the eye, but when you really look at them and feel into what they represent, not just literally, but expanding the meaning, they spare nothing. This particular mandala is a vision of inseparability. And this book is based upon our inseparability and the intersecting nature of all phenomenology, inside and outside. And the reason I bring it up is that I found early on in the writing of this book two things that I'd never really understood or discovered or used as a kind of etymological muse, a literary muse, if you will, which was the word literary mandala. The book is a literary mandala, 63 short sections that are intersecting symbols of information and pictures like a mandala of good and evil, right and wrong, heaven and hell, as Mr. Jung talks about here in this quote, and the variations of as many of those dyads as I could come up with to create my own literary mandala. And so you could easily identify with going through this book or going to a museum of mandalas, and you can identify and look at an image and then you'll find it utterly repulsive. You know, a man is being decapitated and the head is being eaten by ghoulish figures as they delight and fornicate animals. I mean, that's as dark can get, but they get darker than that. And of course, those of us who have studied history and read the news and watch the various things that goes on at this time and throughout history, the convulsions of a genocide. I mean, I've only been up close a few times and as a non-combatant, but it's unimaginable to be up close. And I know many of you know better than I do the machinations and the variations on existence. It's one thing to talk about death, another thing to be in a morgue. It's one thing to talk about rape and to be a victim as a woman of rape. It's one thing to talk about decapitation and being the executioner and the family watching the execution. It's one thing to talk about the Holocaust. It's one thing to be a survivor of the Holocaust. It's unimaginable. And yet I think we all live within, I don't know how else to say it, an ecosystem, an etymological, epistemological, probably a vocabulary as well of the heart, but a deep root system of interconnectedness. Again, a vision of inseparability where we cannot avoid the infections of horror and the radiance of enlightenment, all within our own ecosystem of mind and body. Pause. This book, if you do get it and you read it, it's me talking to me, and I think I wrote it in such a way that I hope it's a meditation for you to see that what you feel, it provokes your own inner mandala, a literary mandala to talk to you, to touch you, to inspire you, to repulse you, to include, you know, the unifying principle of all phenomena, the inseparability of all things. It's not about Alan Clements. It's about, you know, the piece of art and what you take from it. Not about the evaluation of how well I could have written the story or how much better. Okay, no need for any of that kind of feedback. I'm not looking for that kind of review. I wrote it as a self-therapy, if you will, in my own piece of art. Like, what is my mandala? My battle with samsara, my quest, my struggle to understand good and evil in my own life. And yes, you might get provoked at different times. Oh, why did he use those words? Oh, that's so repulsive. You know, just stick your head in a pile of human flesh with maggots, where the Tibetans have no trouble bringing forth, hey man, hey woman, if you're born into this world and this samsara, these are the configurations that one must deal with, integrate, and transform into, I would call it a vision of inseparability. Oh, why did you mention Donald Trump? Why don't you love the leftist Biden Democrats? It's not about that. Those are symbols that, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so may I encourage you to keep that OMG active if you do get the book and see where you fit in with your own artistic relationship to the to the symbols of your own life. Obviously, stating the obvious, we live in a world, and it seems that there's linear time. We grow old, some die young, some die old. But in a world without absolute direction, there's no ultimate north or south or east or west or center to an infinite mandala of intersecting symbols and neurons and all the various ingredients that make up this existence to give us the photonic radiance of seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and thinking. But there's, it looks as if we're growing old and moving through time, and we're orbiting a sun in a solar system in a galaxy, but there's no absolute up and down. It's all a kind of weird simultaneity. And quantum physics and the theories of relativity, as they merge in my little understanding, really explode the narratives of the conventional. And I think those of us who have done the psychedelic, the DMT, the MEO, the roots, the meditation, the more deeper psychotherapeutic existential feels, the pre-intuitive, the psychic awakenings that we all live with if we're, I think, in that dual premonition of awakening and death, that we feel that the life that we have been fed, told, studied in schools and Bibles and texts, it's very one and two dimensional, and most of it is just the protocol of propaganda, often unknown to the teacher, the guide, the priest, the nun, that they live in these unrecognized forms of indoctrination to Aristotelian facing the cave wall and taking these shadows to be real. And few people ever see that that's a conditioned causal relationship and go, oh, what I see is the reflection of something behind me, in me, deeper. And then metaphorically, we turn around and we face the light and it's blinding, and give me a joint, give me crack cone, give me sex, give me meditation, give me dogma, give me attachment, give me stability, give me the protocol of conformity. And we turn back to the shadow, half awakened, and we live in the kind of half world. And a lot of us are there. And so, as I contemplated for this last year, and even more so this last couple of weeks post-publication, the premonition. It sounds a little bit too solid to talk about premonition, but there's something in us. Again, please hang with me in this shared improvisational, nothing to teach space. Just sharing with you out of the goodness of being together. The premonition, what does guide us? What moves us to do what we do in an hour in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening? And who wants to ever live at the crossroads of regret and remorse? That's a loser's game. And so those of us who are more inclined to feel into deeper choice making, not just writing a book, but what will you say, and then how will you say it, and how truthful will you say it, rather than playing to the numbers, the views, the likes, the swipes, the commerciality, the all the various ways that we find ourselves often unrecognizably embedded in the no denigration intended, the capitalistic hallucination. That too is part of our anatomical engagement. I don't denigrate it, but to premonition, the intuitive, the psychic awakening to what's right and what to do, when to do it, how to do it, why to do it, with whom to do it. And that crossroad, which is very, very powerful, to come to. You know, I left here nearly 50 years ago to embark upon a journey across Asia to eventually ordain as a monk. That was a deep, 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 deep calling. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, a combination of, you know, could I survive yet another hour in this capitalistic, carnivore-based competition culture, stoned out, drunked out on sex and love and music and rad and poetry and, you know, all kinds of narcotics and cocaine and all the various things that one does with a cigarette in one's mouth and the poem in one's ear. But I was ready to die. And we were born all along the way, and the premonition at a certain stage is not easy to access. Some people would really cry to have a way to crack the convenient, elegant semi-comas of familiar patterns in relationships that are just not really turned on to high radiance. I don't use the word bliss here with blow your mind with joy, but just the fidelity, knowingly that you are making good on the promise of your raison d'etre, your existential integrity. I know as a yogi, a meditator in Burma primarily, that was so important. If you had a Kalyanamitta that was really refined, he or she just so supported existential dignity, alignment that you must find your way, young nun, young monk, young yogi, old monk, old nun. There is a voice inside. You must listen. It guides your mindfulness. It guides your effort. It guides your concentration. It guides your innate wisdom to make good on the promise of your Dhamma, your parami, raison d'etre. And here we are today at the precipice of a future, the precipice of an avalanche, the precipice of an extinction, the precipice of a birth, the precipice of an awakening, and the precipice of death. I was thinking as I end today of one of my favorite discourses attributed to the Buddha along these lines of the literary mandala, the weird oddity and the preciousness of being alive and coming to terms more and more with this anatomical mortality and this cognitive infinity and the intersection of all the various things called good and evil, and the desire to make wise choices and the inevitability of dealing with patience and determination and epic forms of courage that so many girls and boys deal with right now. I can't imagine what it means to be in a war zone, a terrorist camp, a rape place. And yet there they are in the gulags around the world, and here we are sitting with them as our brothers and sisters, and the animals and the trees and the dimensions of other deities in all realms of being, and here we are with dealing with premonition of awakening and death in the sutta, the Bahia Sutta. And I so relate to Bahia. Bahia apparently, not unlike a lot of us, had overestimation of his depth, his capacities, which is probably natural. He may have been a beautiful mind too, and so humble, but the nuances of his rhetoric and his presence and his style and his pride exceeded his depth and humility to the edge of his own presence, his own understanding, his own insight. Well, it turned out to be that an ally in a previous life, a samsaric sangha ally, think of that term, huh? That we have guardian angels, that we have guardian devas, we have lovers and brothers and teachers and kalyanamittas that coexist with us in simultaneity without being visibly in touch, but yet we can feel them, right? We're not alone. We are married to these incredible guardian devas. Well, Bahi had a guardian deva. He had a lot of them. They had been together in a previous life, meditators apparently, according to the commentaries. And his deva friend listened to him give a talk probably a talk like this, but I'm trying my very best just to be pure and humble and not to think that I'm exceeding the limits of my understanding and really making it clear. I'm not here to teach. I'm just here to process strangely my own edge, to come to terms with greater courage, to face the premonition of awakening and death. And the Deva appeared. A Deva appeared. How beautiful that concept. A Deva appeared in my life tonight. A being of such splendor and divine light, right? What an ally. Sometimes when I hold my heart, I ask for guidance. Yes, I'm asking for the psychic intuitive of my own kind of deep Dhamma DNA, but at the same time I'm asking for alliances. Do you hear what I hear, my love and my friends, my family, my teachers, my Buddha, my Maitreya, my inseparability, my mandala? I'm calling upon the forces of the good, my Deva. And Deva appeared with Bahia and says, Bahia, you and I have been rad. We've been down for a long time. From time immemorial, we've hung, we've practiced, we've shouted, we've screamed, we've made love in different ways to different people. We've been in deity land, we've been in Brahmalokas, we've been in hell beings. We've boiled, we've cried, we've screamed. A trust was established. Trust was established. To get to heaven, we have to talk about having shared hell. Bahia, like on a high dose of the molecule, went, oh my God. Premonition, right? Oh my God. I've arrived at a moment of eroticized Ubuntu with a Deva that loves making Dhamma sapiosexual sex for freedom, not orgasm alone in the conventional way, not excluding that, but Deva is here to talk to Bahia. And he says, my friend, you're so cool, so poetic, so down with your language, your energy, you got such a big following, you're living well, you have adoration, there's so much love in your life, and there's more. And there's more. And I'm here as your soul ally, your entelechy, your support system, your friend, your former lover, your brother, your Buddha, your Kalyanamita. Call me what you want. I am here to be your premonition from within, and I'm going to project this inness outward so that you see me as a visual entity, but I'm really talking to you from within, and you're talking to yourself. Your wisdom is speaking, Bahia. There's more to do. Imagine right there, this, again, it's a favorite topic of mine and a set of favorite states of mind. You know, I look in my brief history studies of various conflicts, especially, say, the arising of the Third Reich and my meager exploration of the Holocaust. And the word collusion and complicity with the white supremacist evildoers at the top, of course, at the top with Adolf Hitler. And how many smart men and women, how many professors, how many writers and poets and painters and scientists, without even knowing it, colluded with that ideology as it arose. That is so crazy to see that all that energy is in a mandala. I put it in my book in one of the 63 or successive 63 sections. Collusion, complicity, and the ways in which we are enamored by things that are denigrating, slowly building into an evil explosion called slavery. Genocide, the Bosnian ethnic cleansing, the sniping of Sarajevans, the terrorists in Burma today, torturing, oppressing, raping the people, all throughout history. And collusion and complicity. And Bahia and the Deva friend, he got it. He said, I'm going to be mindful here. I'm hearing my friend. I'm not going to allow him to be in complicity with my premonition for more. And so we told him about this Buddha, the unifying principle of the mandala, not the Buddha, the literal figure, but the radiance that makes good on the mandala to unify dualities, and that releases one from primordial fixation and the propaganda of engagement with limiting phenomena, the whole dyad of fear and avoidance and grasping and delight. The Buddha, that's the symbol of the Buddha. And all throughout this book, I want to say is, I try to take my Buddha Dhamma Sangha to the highest level possible, so that if I died at the end of this book, and who knows, it all might be true, that I spared nothing to create my mandala, my battle with samsara. And he said, there is a Buddha in physical form in the north of the country. And Bahia was so on the spot, as the commentaries state in my interpretation of the commentaries, so turned on, so alive with possibility. I don't know what that level of deep cellular rapture will feel like, to be so regardless of the sickle of death, that while there is the breath, the heart is transformed into a radiant Dhamma Sanvega driven fire of urgency. It isn't haste and anxiety and all the things that come down with stress, but it's like so cool that you've got an alignment now to liberation. You feel you're coming home. Maybe it's the last mile. Now, Bahia didn't go on some Google map and find where the Buddha was hanging. He took the information, followed the directions of his Deva ally, and he walked. He left it all behind. There's something very powerful about that concept. Just leaving it all behind sometimes. Yes, saying goodbye and keeping your attic filled with memorabilia so that people clean it out when you die. But sometimes just leaving it all behind. What does that mean? Like shedding the body, shedding memory, metaphorical death, yeah? And so Bahia walks north. And he meets the Buddha, it said. And the Buddha was apparently walking on alms round. And again, this comes up for me because it speaks to not just the story, but understanding the story elements of the story. Bahia is talking to now the source of liberation according to his Deva premonition, long time samsaric sangha ally. He's now in the company of his Jung, his Buddha, his archetypal lover, his true twin flame. And he says, my Deva ally has told me, sir, that you have the transformational teaching to awaken from all forms of denying inseparability, fragmenting off from my mandala, living in duality. You've got the key to the unification of good and bad, right and wrong, light and evil. Freedom. Freedom from delusion. And I just so like envisioning, I mean, I wish we had video of these events like we do some of the great movies, whether it be that of Gandhi or of Jesus of Nazareth, the Buddha. Imagine, and here is Bahia with the Buddha. We can watch this night on Netflix and do acid and get enlightened together on the global screen of the world. And the Buddha says to Bahia, says, you are right to have listened to your Deva ally. You are right to have occupied your Dhamma Parami Premonition guidance. It is right to have how much I was encouraged as a yogi to occupy your existential dignity. Nobody can free yourself but you. They've all said it. The greats have sung it. The saints have shared it. Nobody can remove the arrow of moha or delusion from your heart. No miracle can be done other than the miracle of mindfulness to understand how we can do this for ourselves, but we can't do it alone. Thus this communion moment. And this is where I get very taken in. Is at this stage, I'm not looking necessarily for fine food and fine wine, although I don't mind having, a modicum of okayness with it. And comforts, yes. But it's communion, creative, existential, erotic, liberating presence communion. Because I know that I can only go so high on my own, and I want to meet my metaphorical Yasodhara, my metaphorical Gautama, my metaphorical Sariputta, my metaphorical Kema, the highest radiances of intimate communion. And I don't know about you, but when you're creating or you're meditating or you're doing yoga or you're writing, the challenge is how well can you commune with the finest, deepest places of your heart? And are you really, who fucking cares whether you're writing a book? What are you going to say? How natural and real is it? How authentic is it? How authentic and real is it that you're touching my body? How deeply intimate are you with yourself, with me? It's not about having yet another sexual encounter, another meditation session. It's all about high quality, okay? Right there, pause. It's only taken the last 5 years for me to tune into, as I come to the close here, this all senses, all avenues of experience, all context, all degrees of complexity, and all postures. Taking the north, the south, the west, the east, and the center out of my Dhamma. Taking the apartheid out of my mind. Taking the preference of bodily posture, of location, and quite frankly, a lot of the time, of person as well. Really occupying, really truly, the radiance of now time presence, but with heightened, not answers, but the vulnerability of communion to the highest ordinance of Dhamma release, and that too, and that too. And here it is, I imagine, Bahia with the Buddha. And it's like with Mahasi Sayadaw illuminating the wisdom of the Tuvataka Sutta. The Buddha's talking to countless devas in all dimensions. And he's saying to them, listen up. Mahasi's saying to the 10,000 people in 1976 in Rangoon at the Mahasi Center, according to the sutta, he's saying, I want to share with you this very obscure sutta called the Tuvataka Sutta. And here we have it as the Bahia Sutta. They intersect. And he's telling the audience, and I can feel it right now, Listen with the entirety of your being. Listen deeply with the premonition of awakening and death. Keep that radiance and crucifixion simultaneously available right here and now to play the highest stakes with your presence in context to your Buddha, if you're so lucky. And yes, it's one thing to be present with the ones that we love and equally deal with patience with those who disturb us. But, I don't know about you, but I feel very connected to the Deva talking to me as Bahya. Where is this trajectory, knowing the premonition of awakening so near and death so near? Where is this going to lead? And in the meantime, listen up to the metaphorical Buddha. And the Buddha says, this isn't the right moment, Bahya. I'm on alms round. If you just wait, I'll give you the highest sharing of my entirety. And Bahya felt down into his premonition, according to the commentaries. And he said, sir, I understand the protocol of what you're doing on alms and your desire to fulfill the silence and the obligation to the donors. But please hear me. I hear something very deep in my heart. I feel the premonition of awakening and death that can't be postponed. Do you hear the calling? Do you hear the calling? I asked myself this morning. And the Buddha was said to have said to Bahya, Bahya, your existential dignity is noble. Your question is noble. Please wait. And I will share with you the entirety of Dhamma in such a way it is the best of me. I mean, think of that. It's like, I don't want to wait until tomorrow. Yes, I know the protocol is to be respectfully patient. All the things that we see in various Rumi-esque or Zen teachings to test the patience and the determination of the student. But Bahya said no. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He said, no, my premonition, sir, is so rad. I feel it. Of course, I'm just freelancing here in my own interpretation, which I would only encourage you to do with everything that you read. Freelance it and make it so real. Make it your own art, your own theater. He said, I feel it, sir. I feel the premonition of awakening, and death is so certain. I cannot wait or deny this. Please hear me, sir. And the Buddha was said to have said, yes, I hear you, man. I am with you. I am with you. I am with you. Wow, wow, wow. Let's drop the acid together here and close the doors and open the universe on infinite possibility to taking our Dhamma as high as awakening can be. Okay, Mr. Idealistic, why not play high stakes? At the same time, I know my body and mind as yours in this earth are infinitely mortal. It won't be long before the entire earth vanishes. 200 million years from now, scientists tell us that our beloved earth that keeps us warm and suntans us at just the right will just not only bake everything on earth, will disintegrate it. The flames 96 million miles away will engulf everything that we are right now. The great existential silence in our solar system based upon Mother Sun. Wow. Bahya and the Buddha, you and me, our devas, our premonitions of awakening and death. Why are we yogis? Why are we meditators? Why are we journeyers to postpone? But we're up at the precipice with the premonition, if we can feel it, right? Of awakening and death. And here the Buddha says to Bahya, according to the text, it's just my own interpretation, Bahia, listen up. I love that encouragement. Feel with all of your heart and mind. You know, when you're ever on acid with someone and you can just see every little nuance and crevasse and of everything going on, plus, 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 deeper and higher. Imagine the Buddha and Bahia in that radiance of shared psychedelic Dhammic intimacy and the presence of mutuality. Talk about intimacy, at least my fantasy goes there. And possibility and humility. These paramis, so radiant in the Bahia and the Buddha are present. And the Buddha says to him, according to this, it's very short, Bahia, in seeing, there's just seeing. The inseparability of the functions of sight. In hearing, just the phenomena of hearing. In tasting, just taste. In sensing, just sensed. In cognizing, there is nothing other than just pure cognition. The unification of all duality. And even that too, and the Buddha goes, and even that too. And there's this dropping away. I don't know, maybe we should play an auditory version of this in our own language and do a fair dose of the psychedelic and commune with what are the highest auditory vibrations of transformational awakening that are possible. At the same time, the radical humility, I want to really emphasize this because it's very important for me, the radical humility to embody deep regard for humanness. I eat today based upon other people I have never met. I am kept warm and protected by loved ones who've offered generously shelter. I wear clothing by those whom I've never known, nor will I ever meet. I am who I am, Ubuntu, because of other, and I meet them in grace. So as we talk, as I share with this incredible momentary auditory mandala, a cognitive intersecting set of symbols that releases grasping and fear in such a way, and I do believe in the full radiance of enlightenment, the arhantship state. And I aspire to that as a deep premonition aditant, a deep desire. To hear these teachings and to play such, I guess what I'm trying to get to here is play such high intimate stakes with listening to the premonition of our own awakening and our own inevitable death. And what is it? Where are our devas? Where are our voices of support? Where are our kalyanamitas inside and out? What is the information that we overestimate that we have and know? What could we do with the preciousness of the day? Obviously, the preciousness of the breath. So allow me to close today. My book, a literary mandala. No north, no south, no east, no west, no birth or death in the spectrum. In a world where there is no linear time, what does infinity mean? A directionless simultaneity of intersecting phenomenology, where we're trying to overcome the protocol of phantasm, the ease of fusion with hallucinations, and tease out of these invisibilities in colors and cognitions and textures, fear and attachment. What else is there to do in the existential Dhamma dance? And rest in impermanent dynamic transparency with the primordial unity of all things, nibbana, the unconditioned. Can you imagine it? I think it's important not to try to project and train for a state alone, but for me, the takeaway and my closure here as an invitation. We live in the time of everything in all ways. We live in an infinite universe that is devoid of centrality. Here we are, here we sit. It's our call to live with eyes and ears and body wide open. Bahia. Mahasi Sayadaw to his audience, the Buddha to the Tuvatakans. Listen with the entirety of your heart and being to the premonition of your calling, where you need to be inside of yourself with whom, and when you're in the fidelity of your Kalyanamitta inside and out, your friend, your deva, your ally, your angel, your lover, your teacher, your guide, your child, whatever you imbue, urgency and intelligence and possibility and non-postponement and preciousness and all these qualities that radiate from our heart of parami and Dhamma, show up. Because awakening in death is all there is. And within that, the million intersecting symbols of our own personal mandala in context to this strange, weird thing called samsara. So from my heart to yours, I hope there's something in this that may touch you. Reach out if you wish. I'll be here tomorrow, hopefully 9:30. And have a great day. And don't forget Burma. Stay in solidarity with these blessed people. And listen deeply to your own heart's calling, your own premonition. What's right for you today. And live well. Thank you.